Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, the 6th of August. I think I am in Calgary at Sacred Circle, and I hope that you're doing well. The devotion I'd like to share with you today is something that was written by Joel Mason, and it was from the 31st of July, passage regarding on the day of Ignatius of Loyola from Celtic Daily Prayer. And it's called We Play and Bleed. Again, it's written by Joel Mason. We are a network of relationships, some close, some distant, some acquaintance-like. We bleed and play, pray and breathe. Nothing new. We are looking for the sweet undergrowth of the awareness of God in ourselves, each other, and the world, which is His. And we are His, to different extents and in different ways. As might be predictable, the way we hurt each other most is by holding in our hearts judgments of those that are far off or less His. We are looking for a mission, marching orders, or a sword upon which to die. We are reasonably sure that we will find these things, and about as sure that we already have. We are academics and carpenters, businessmen and mystics, counselors and pastors, though if we were honest, we probably couldn't tell you which ones were which. We live down the street, down the highway, and across the country from each other. We vote conservative and liberal, though we consider that no feat of ecumenism. We have barbecues in the summer and kitchen parties in the winter. Most of us like beer. Our hearts are mainly at home. We want to proclaim joyfully the truth of Jesus as we understand it, without being asses. Though historically this has not often been accomplished, we pray and act that we might all be siphoned through the narrow way of Jesus' humility and live to tell the tale. To the extent that you are curious or can perhaps relate to the experiences of Christian community, we invite you in. Take off your shoes. Cup of tea? When I read this, I was reading it right after I'd read a passage from a book I was reading. I try to read a theological book for about 10 minutes every day just to make sure that I do. And in that book, it was talking about planting churches that were intentionally multicultural or intercultural, so that, that one group of people who were completely homogenous just worshiped together. That didn't happen. And so in my back of my head was this image and this thought about how do we make ourselves that intercultural? How do we make sure that when we worship, when we talk about our faith, when we do the work we're called to do, we don't just do it with people who are exactly like we are, that we intentionally reach out to people and worship with people and choose to be with people who are different than we are. Because that can be hard. It can be very hard, especially when it comes to the important things in life. Think about foodies. Got any foodies in your life? People who really love food and know how to cook or know how to appreciate good cooking. And you can get people into absolute tyrannical tirades by talking about how bad this one chef is or how good this particular thing is. I mean, even something as simple as talking about pineapple on pizza. I totally love pineapple anywhere and anytime in any way. And on top of pizza, as long as it doesn't have ham, can't stand ham on pizza, I'm good to go. My dean, on the other hand, can't stand pineapple on pizza. He thinks it's a sacrilege. And we have these great debates from time to time when we go to Boston Pizza and order food. We can always make up and we're fine again after. But there are people who feel that strongly about food that they would socialize only with people who feel the same way they do. And look what happens when we do that. If we socialize only with people who feel the same way we do we grow? We might a little bit, but from the other things that people accidentally bring into the conversation, into the relationship because of the other experiences they have. But when we tend to be unto ourselves, people who think only, who are comfortable only with people who think like we do, like I do, we lose so much possibility of learning. We lose so much possibility of experiencing something different. And this idea of recognizing that as Christians, as people, we play and bleed the same way. We are a network of relationships, some close, some distance, some acquaintance like. We bleed and play, pray and breathe, nothing new. We are looking for the sweet undergrowth of the awareness of God in ourselves, each other, and the world, which is His. For those of us, whether you call yourself Christian or not, but for those people who are seeking something and might be flirting with Christianity, sort of, the early stages of dating, sort of come to church once in a while and step back, read some stuff up, do some searching online, maybe a little bit of cyber stalking, to check out who this Jesus guy is or who those people who say they are Jesus people are, to see if you might be comfortable with them. Whether you're there on the fringes and saying, yeah, I don't know about that yet, but you're willing to keep the door open a crack just in case. Or you're right in the heart of it. You know Jesus, you love Jesus, you sing about Jesus, everything you do is about Jesus. We all have that in common. We have that one thing that's very huge, Jesus, but we have that one thing in common that really isn't very big. The beauty of Jesus is that Jesus is as big or as little as we need Jesus to be. Because there would be people who would argue with me, but I say that sometimes people need Jesus to just be little. Just be the sliver, so that they don't feel overwhelmed or sucked in by something they're not ready to embrace. It's like I said about sort of dating or getting to know someone, sort of intrigued, checking them out, looking in the yearbook, finding out what their favorite saying was and what their ambition in life was, to see if maybe, if a spark started up, would it be worth following through with? That's the thing, that our relationship with Jesus is essentially the same for all of us, because the sameness comes in that Jesus is completely willing to be with us as we are willing to be with Him. He will never impose Himself upon us. He'll never force us to sit down and have a beer or a cup of tea. But He'll absolutely say, come on in when you're ready. Pull up a chair. Want a cup of tea? We need to begin recognizing that whether or not people think like us, like my example of the foodies who all gather together, or whether people think differently, we are all in relationship together, and those relationships really aren't that different, especially our relationship with God. We need to acknowledge and recognize that we are created as we are. God made us who we are, introverts, extroverts, love put pineapple on your pizza or hate pineapple on your pizza, foodies or not. We are created exactly the way we are, and that's probably a good thing. There's something wrong with the way God created us. We need to figure out how we interact with other people so that they can see the goodness that God created in us, and then maybe we can see it too. But it's like that whole intercultural thing. We need to make the effort to recognize that whether my neighbor is right next door or somewhere across the country or around the world, we're still neighbors. We still have interest in the same being, in Jesus. And that in itself is the common denominator we need. Now, whether or not we agree on pineapple on pizza, well, that doesn't have to be a friendship breaker, but it just leads to the dimensions of how wonderful the friendship can be. We are all called to do that intercultural work, to recognize that we play and we breathe, we pray and we bleed together. And really, we do it all in the same way. And if we have that much in common, then really the things that aren't in common aren't big enough to separate us from the communities we're called to be in. I hope that made sense to you. It makes perfect sense up here, and here in my heart. But I hope it made sense to you. Make time today to reach out to other people and recognize who they are, to acknowledge what they're doing in your life and how God is maybe asking you to help lead them or inviting you to be led by them, to come into a greater relationship with them or with Jesus or God or with yourself. Intercultural, interrelationship. There's a lot to it, and it's all worth it. Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.